What is up, guys? It's your boy, the Edge of Cacus, and today we've got some brand spankin' new Destiny 2 news, courtesy of the Bungie weekly update that has just gone live, revealing official information, and so, let's get started. And guys, it's a big one. Now, first things first, what's been going on this week for Destiny 2? Well, on the Tuesday weekly reset, a lot happened. First of all, an embargo lifted for Edge of Fate content. So, a bunch of YouTubers, including ya boy, were putting out a ton of new Edge of Fate videos. I put out 5 videos in total, so there was a lot going on, guys. Here was what I showcased. First of all, I went over all 5 of the new Edge of Fate exotics, both weapons and armor we were able to see. I've got gameplay with all of them. Definitely check out that video linked right up above if you haven't seen it. Then after that, I went over all 25 new legendary weapons I was able to see during that capture event. We're talking brand new weapon archetypes like rocket pulse rifles, brand new weapon perks, new Trials of Osiris weapons, new seasonal weapons, and so much more. So definitely check out that video if you missed it, linked right up above. Then after that, guys, I made a video going over the Armor 3.0 overhaul, everything you need to know about how armor is changing, new armor archetypes, the stat distribution, the stats themselves, like how every new stat is changing and what those values are in the game, guys. Definitely, again, check out that video if you missed it, linked right up above. Then the next day, I put out a video going over the new seasonal artifacts. So not only showcasing every new seasonal artifact perk, which is going to influence the meta massively, but also talking about one of the most controversial new features coming in the Age of Fate, and that is new gear bonuses. That's right, you actually get tangible effects on your character for putting on new gear. And then finally, guys, I made a video going over the new tiering system that's going to affect both weapons and armor. I actually had a Bungie dev sit down with me and give me 5 of the exact same weapon in the 5 different tiers. So we go over every single tier and you can really easily see the exact differences between them, guys. So again, a lot of videos. I'm sure your feeds were absolutely spammed, but definitely check out any that you missed because there is just so much going on in the Edge of Fate. Especially, you have massive changes to the core game. That's what I think a lot of people may not realize. Like, even if you do not buy the Edge of Fate, Destiny 2 is changing so dramatically when it comes out with all these new overhauls. But with all these videos going live, a controversy started and the Destiny 2 community was very upset. Now, why? Well, it was revealed that in the build we played, a lot of the aspects for Prismatic were getting nerfed dramatically. For example, Consecration was going from currently 3 fragment slots all the way down to 1, and the same for other aspects like, I believe, Feed the Void and the Hunter one that makes you invisible. That's escaping me right now, but that would have really negatively impacted a ton of Prismatic builds, and so people were very upset. Like, their favorite build was getting stripped away from them. Well, Bungie actually responded with this particular tweet. So, they say, regarding Prismatic subclass tuning, specifically fragments, during our hands-on preview for Destiny 2 The Edge of Fate, we shared an early look at Prismatic tuning planned for update 9.0.0. They say this tuning pass reduced the number of fragments that could be placed on various aspects. As we've found, the Prismatic subclasses have been a bit hot since release. Certain Prismatic builds have increased damage output and survivability to a point where some challenges can feel trivial, and bringing everything else up to Prismatic's level wouldn't help solve this issue in a healthy manner. We see this conversation about power creep frequently, which is why we take time to tune things up or down during release timelines. This gives us an opportunity to rein in outliers when new content is coming. Now, that's all fine and good, Bungie, but what happened is that players got so mad about these changes, they're actually taking a step back and they're reducing the severity of these nerfs. So they say, here is the list of aspects per class and planned changes to fragment slots. So, Consecration is currently 3 slots. It's going down to 2, reverted from 1. So it would have been 1. Everyone got so mad, they're saying, okay, just 2. Knockout remains at 2, reverted from 1. So that's not changing. Hunter, Stylish Executioner, that's the one, remains at 2, reverted from 1, so it was going down to 1, now it's not changing. Ascension is going from 3 down to 2, and Winter Shroud is also going from 3 down to 2. Then Warlock, Feed the Void, remains at 2, reverted from 1. Hellion is going from 3 to 2, and Bleak Watcher is also going from 3 to 2, guys. So, the best prismatic builds were going to be severely nerfed, and now they're just being regular nerfed. Or are they? Because here's the thing. So much is changing in the Edge of Fate, losing a couple of fragment slots might not make a difference. And here's an example. The Prismatic Consecration Titan, yeah, it's down a couple of fragments, but in the Edge of Fate, you can now have your melee stat go above 100, and from 100 to 200, you get a melee damage bonus. So I had like 167 melee stat in the build I was playing during the Edge of Fate event, and I had like 20% more melee damage in PvE, 20% more damage that you're not getting right now. So you could pump that up to potentially, 25%, 30% just from having 200 melee, right? On top of that, you can also put in certain armor set bonuses that maybe give you even more melee advantages. So yeah, you're losing a couple of fragment slots, but you're gaining all this other stuff. So it's really hard to say, like, if these builds are going to be outright worse or if they'll still actually end up being better because of the Edge of Fate changes. But really important information to know, guys. Like, you are going to have less fragment slots. The community kind of won that battle because going down to 1 fragment slot for a lot of those would have absolutely sucked, but there we are. Now, something else that happened on the Tuesday weekly reset is that Prophecy is now the featured dungeon for the Rite of the Nine event. So you have the new kind of remade Prophecy weapons to go after. You have new quests at the Emissary that will give you a guaranteed holo foil of one of these weapons. So definitely get on it if you haven't. Now, let's jump into the brand new information within the TWAB. So, the first thing Bungie talks about is what we've already talked about in this video with all the new Edge of Fate videos that came out, but then they go over some very important questions that the community has been having about this content. So first of all, will we get more vault space? No. That change is coming in Renegades. Something is being done in Renegades later this year to address vault space and quality of life. Then, will I be able to use my current gear? They say your current gear is still very viable in the Edge of Fate, and you will surely use it in the near future when beginning the new expansion and even in contest mode for the world's first race. At a high level, the new gear we introduce alongside gear tiering will offer new benefits once you start getting involved with certain activities. Armor will have spikier stats and higher total numbers, as well as specific archetypes that will help you put together stronger builds. Same thing with weapons. And they say we have more information in upcoming TWIDs and a full live stream. They don't even mention what I talked about in my video, is that there's actually a specific new gear bonus where you get more weapon damage, for example, for putting on a new weapon, right? So that what they said is true. However, when you first start the expansion, you're not going to have access to tier 5 stuff instantly. It's going to take a while. So any really good god rolls you already acquired are still going to be very viable for quite a while. After that, guys, what new weapon archetypes are coming with the Edge of Fate? They said, oh, you notice the new spread shot hand cannon. So they say tune into our next developer streams to learn more about many of the weapons, or you could just watch my video going over all the weapons. I cover literally all of them. And then, guys, they say, what's happening to mobility, recovery, and resilience? That's coming below. That's so important. We're going to go over that in a sec. Is the director going away? No. The portal is like the new system where you can choose what activity you do, but there's going to be a way you can access the directory aside from the portal if you want to use the normal directory. Then, guys, what are unstable cores? They say it's a new currency we're introducing in the Edge of Fate. They will be earned from dismantling high-level gear, among other sources, and will reset at the start of each 6-month season. We plan to answer all your questions in, TWIDs and developer live streams and so on. But here's some very important information: gear tiering and exotic armor 3.0. Again, if you want to know about 3.0, watch my video. It goes over everything. But now Bungie finally reveals what each stat is turning into. So there are brand new stats in the Edge of Fate. There's a weapon stat, guys, that doesn't exist in the game right now. And a lot of the current stats, mobility, resilience, and recovery, they're going away. Here are the direct conversions. Mobility is now weapons. Resilience is now health. Recovery is class. Strength is melee. Discipline is grenade, and intellect is super. So the bottom three makes sense. If you have a super high strength armor piece that you use in melee builds, you're still going to be able to use that in melee builds in the Edge of Fate. But like, if you want that weapon stat, which is going to influence how much damage you do to minor enemies, and above 100, it influences how much damage you do to bosses and other guardians in the Crucible, you're gonna need high mobility stat armor, right? I was trying to give a hint to you guys in the last Xur video I did, where I was like, oh, this armor piece has really high mobility. You wouldn't need it right now, but maybe in the Edge of Fate. I'm trying to help you guys. But yeah, so if you get like a super high mobility piece on the Titan, for example, don't instant delete anymore. You might want that for the weapons stat. But Bungie also goes over exactly what every stat does. Now, if you watched my Armor 3.0 video, you're already going to know this, so feel free to fast forward, but they do break it down in a bit more detail. So for health, 1 to 100 grants 0 to 70 healing when picking up an orb of power. So at 100, you'll have 70 health for picking up an orb. Grants 0 to 10% flinch resistance. Then from 100 to 200, shields start recharging 0 to 25% more quickly and take 0 to 50% less time to fully recharge. Then 0 to 20 additional shield capacity versus combatants. So you will get a tiny bit more essentially health versus PvE enemies there. Then for melee, 1 to 100 improves the base cooldown of your melee ability and improves the amount of melee energy gained from external sources and any melee regeneration speed scalars from other sources. That's interesting too. Then you have 100 to 200, so 0 to 30% increased melee ability damage. Includes powered, unpowered, and glaive melees. Very interesting. And again, like, that's why I'm saying, yeah, the Consecration is losing a fragment, but it's gaining potentially 30% more melee damage, which is absurd. Then, guys, for Grenade, 1 to 100 improves base cooldown, and same thing, improves the amount of grenade energy gained from external sources. 100 to 200, 0 to 65% increased grenade ability damage. That is crazy too. Then for Super, 1 to 100 improves the super energy gained from damaging targets, so it does not change the base cooldown of your super, and also improves external sources as well. And again, I think that means, like, if you have the Mantle of Battle Harmony, right, you would get even more super with more super stats, I'm imagining here. And then from 100 to 200, 0 to 45% increased super ability damage. So that means, yeah, if you really spec into super, your Celestial Nighthawk is going to be doing 45% more damage. That's pretty crazy. Then for class, 1 to 100 improves base cooldown of class ability. Same thing with external sources. 100 to 200 grants a 0 to 40 HP overshield, 0 to 10 in PvP on casting your class ability. Duration is determined by the ability used. Example, dodge and thruster lasts 5 seconds, barricade and rift lasts 10 seconds. Still, guys, like, you spec out 200 of your class stat every time you put down, for example, a Storm's Keep barricade on the Titan. You're basically getting a free bastion for yourself. You're getting an overshield for yourself, which is pretty cool. Then for weapons, 1 to 100 improves the weapon reload and handling speeds. It also improves damage versus minor and major combatants. So it's 0 to 15% for primary and special, and then 0 to 10% for heavy. And then 100 to 200 grants a chance for ammo bricks produced to contain more ammo than normal. So it's like a free scavenger. And then also improves damage versus boss combatants and guardians. So same thing, 0 to 50% for primary and special, 0 to 10% for heavy. Bonus weapon damage versus players is 0 to 6%. This could be so crazy. Like, this is one of the craziest stats because, like, it could potentially influence time to kill in the Crucible. Like, if you had 200 of a weapon stat, is there some weapons that would just gain like that 6% damage bonus would be enough to kill in one shot less? If so, that could be wild. And also, like, during DPS, you know, people hot swap to different exotics. Are you going to be hot swapping to 200 weapon stat for a 10% heavy weapon damage bonus? Like, maybe. So, like I said, these are really massive overhauls to the game. Then, for the stats going away with the new system, we have them set to a fixed value for all players. So, mobility is fixed to what 30 once was for Titans and Warlocks, and then 40 for Hunters. So, Hunters get a bit of a mobility bump. Now, I'm sure a lot of Hunter mains just heard that and went, what? Because you have a 100 mobility hunter, you want that speed, but there's going to be new leg armor mods that you can put on. I think there's a minor and a major version that will buff up your movement speed. So if you put the best version of this new leg armor mod on, you can have, I believe they said, like the equivalent of around 100 mobility in terms of movement speed, guys. So you're still going to be able to go fast, but instead of committing to 100 mobility, you're now committing to putting on some leg armor mods. Resilience is fixed to what 100 once was. So everyone has 100 resilience in the Edge of Fate. That's awesome. And then recovery is fixed to around what 60 was. So honestly, not that bad. Then the ability stats and recharge rates. As part of this major rework, we have tuned all of the base recharge rates of abilities to better align with the way the new stats work. So at low stat investment, so 0 to 30, your abilities will recharge slower than they used to, but at high investment, so 70 to 100, they will be recharging faster than they do right now. Any chunk energy gains, think demolitionist-like perks that provide a direct amount, and any energy recharge scalers, so like Crown of Tempest, will also now be scaled by your stat investment. So that is so crazy. The more grenade stat you have, the bigger chunk of grenade you get from Demolitionist, wow. Then, at 70 stat, they will match the live game values and surpass them at 100 stat. Below 70, they'll give you less value in the live game. And they say, like, we believe this will make investing in stats more impactful, and yeah, I agree. I'm really excited for that change, personally. Then, Exotic Armor 3.0. So, they take a quick dive here saying, if you find yourself looking at the exotic armor, you have only to realize you're going to need a different stat swap. Don't worry, since Armor 3.0's announcement in October, our plans for exotics have evolved to better support this transition. So with the release of the Edge of Fate, we'll be updating all new drops of existing exotics to the new 3.0 system. So they're going to have an armor archetype, and they say, you can actually go to 801 and focus exotics, and this will only be available in the Year of Prophecy. So yes, guys, this is something I saw personally. I may make a video on it later on, but you can go to 801 and you can say, I want the Syntheseps, and it'll give you the Syntheseps, and it'll be a new armor archetype. So it'll be guaranteed brawler, right? So it'll have that massive melee spike, right? Now, you can only do this a limited amount of times, but you will be able to like directly convert armor into the new 3.0 system, exotic armor, I should say, starting in the Edge of Fate. They also say, interestingly, as for exotic class items, we're updating these items directly with stats based on the perks they have on them. If you already have perk combinations you like, keep them. If you're still hunting, feel free to visit the Pale Heart to get ready for the Edge of Fate. And don't forget Zur either. His will may not be his own, but he does bring exotic class items for purchase from time to time. So I'm really wondering how exactly that will work. Maybe Zur is getting a bit of an update in the Edge of Fate. But yes, guys, you don't have to regrind your exotic class items. Remember, with Armor 3.0, class items will have stats. They're real armor pieces now moving forward. So all of your existing exotic class items are being updated. So if you have, I would imagine, like Spirit of Syntheseps, that might give you Brawler, right, as your armor archetype, and you'll get a big melee spike and so on. If you have Spirit of Armamentarium or Grenade Focus one, Spirit of Verity, maybe they are Grenadier. Like Bungie is going to calibrate what archetype they end up in based on the spirits those perks on those exotic armor pieces. Moving on from there, guys, they talk about Prismatic. We already talked about that. Then they also talk about the other thing that happened on the Tuesday weekly reset, Prophecy, guys. Already talked about that. Then they have the Adept's rotation calendar. So this is kind of important because Adept weapons are actually going away in the new gear tiering system. No more Adept weapons. They do not exist, right? Once you get around a tier 3, 4, like 5, those are equivalent and actually better than Adepts. So here is the rotation. Like, if you want a certain Adept weapon, you have to get it by these dates, or else, again, Adept weapons will no longer drop starting in the Edge of Fate, guys. And then after that, guys, they go over a lot of Pride Month stuff, which we have already gone over in the previous TWAB, but importantly, you can get some brand new shaders and emblems and so on. So on top of last time, you could use this code to get a really crazy shader that actually changes color and stuff like that. You can see a video of it right here. If that wasn't all, now you have the Rainbow Collection emote. If you want this emote, that's on screen right now. You just put this code into your Bungie rewards on bungie.net, you'll get it. And you also have the End of the Rainbow transmat. If you want that transmat, use this code on screen right here, guys. So that is finally going to be it for the video. A lot to cover, and again, there's going to be juicy TWABs from here on out because there's going to be so much more Edge of Fate info they are covering. Guys, that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below. Again, hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.